iRacing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what? This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome along to Monza and welcome along to the first round of a new series, Xtreem GT4 Series. 6 rounds ahead of us, but round 1 brings us to Monza. Let's look at that calendar right off the bat, see what's going to be ahead of us for the next 6 weeks on Monday nights on SimSpeed TV. Tonight at the Monza GP layout, then historic Barcelona, Road America, the Indianapolis Road Course, Okayama, and closing things out at Bathurst. Bit of a world tour, and definitely some interesting and sometimes underutilized tracks in that one as well, but also some well-known favourites in Bathurst right at the end. I'm David Haynes, Brad Wingard along with me. Let's look at what we will be having tonight and this track though, Brad.
Yeah, Monza's an absolute classic racetrack. It's been in motorsport for as long as most people can remember, and in these GT4 cars, it offers some excellent drafts, which is obviously going to create some fantastic racing tonight.
Since forever is apparently 1922, which is a long time in the world of motorsport. A lot of history around this place on the road course, on the banking, on the combination road course banking. So, key overtaking opportunities, of course, at the end of the long straights, at the chicanes, first chicane and the second chicane, and sometimes the Parabolica or Ascari as well. Like Brad said, a lot of time at full throttle, a lot of really long straights, so some good slipstreaming opportunity as well. Will that bring close racing or will that bring carnage? Time will tell across our 2 races tonight. Race 1, 10 laps, and then that sets the grid partially for race 2 with the top 10 inverted. Then we'll race for 20 laps with a compulsory pit stop. Qualifying's also not far away from us either. That's going to be pretty important. I'm looking at that format and I'm thinking, if I can, I definitely want to be on the inside of the top 10 rather than on the outside looking in.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as we said, the draft is going to play absolute key here. And obviously, if you're further in the back, you get more of a draft, but you're also more prone to incidents. So I think, yeah, that 6th through to 10th position is going to be a really good spot to finish race 1 and then start race 2, because then you're in a prime position to maximize points for the night.
There's 3 manufacturers of Gt4 machines on iRacing now. The Porsche Cayman was the first, then along came this BMW M4 GT4, and in more recent history, the Mclaren 570S GT4, and you can tell on the timing tower who is in what. So they kind of have their own sub-classes as well as all competing for the overall win. This Porsche Cayman, definitely the most popular overall though. It just seems to be the stronger all-rounder, rotates pretty well through the corners, and maybe doesn't eat the tyres quite as aggressively as a McLaren or a BMW might.
Yeah, the balance is very different between the engine positions, and obviously that does help with the rotation of the car as well. And in official racing as well, the Porsche seems to be the pick of the field, and we've still got some McLarens and BMWs tonight, but it's heavily Porsche based.
Time for qualifying with our large grid of over 30 drivers. I can see not only on the entry list, but already in the session right now. Andrew Hobby is one of them, and as you can tell, in a Porsche Cayman GT4. Tyre Warmup has also been something of note, and Andrew Hobby, I think, has made me realise he got too much fuel, too little fuel, something. Tyre Warmup, always a little interesting in these GT4s as well. You get plenty of track on this outlap to warm up the tyres or, get them into the window you're after, but they're still probably not going to be quite right at the start of that first flying lap.
Yeah, that's a real interesting thing. In, say Formula One, it's a 1 minute and 15-second lap around here. We're looking at 1:55, 6s and 7s in practice. So the lap time is probably 75% longer in these GT4 cars. So that first half of that first time lap is sketchy, but then the last couple of corners on the second time lap become sketchy as the prime of the tires start to go away. So it's managing that balance through qualifying. It's going to be very interesting to watch.
Seen Anthony Connors in the McLaren negotiate that second chicane, and then we also saw one of the Porsches navigate it, and it seemed like the Cayman, just on the outlap there, willing to take a little bit more curb and settling a little better as well. That might be one of the things that holds back the Macca.
You have plenty of time to think about your approach into the corners in these cars. Coming up to Ascari now is Anthony Connors, and it's quite difficult. These cars don't have a lot of mechanical grip, not a lot of aero. The balance is there, but Ascari is such a fast corner. You need to be able to change direction easily, and without the aid of downforce like their GT3 counterparts have, it can be very sketchy, especially on this outlap, and you don't want to ruin your outlap because that's a tow back to the pits and then another big outlap again. But Connors gets through fine and comes around the parabolic now to start his first time lap. Hopefully he did a 1:57.1 in practice, so hopefully trying to get the extra couple of tenths out now in his qualifying run.
Very much in need of commitment as you approach the braking zone. The very first braking zone of the lap, arriving at great speed. And that was probably somewhere between 100 and 150 to navigate turn one for the first time. He's away and onto his first lap. Glenn Boyd, we saw a week ago with this Boyd Racing paint for the Cayman. So right on board with him towards the second of the Lesmos, down into third gear, and again he's happy to pop a fair bit of curb, and it looks like the car's responding to what he wants.
Yeah, it's going to pay dividends towards the ends of the lap because the more of the racetrack you can use, the better, especially the length of the straights. You want to carry as much momentum as you can. Sky, you want to brake as late as you can to try and get that inside first curb, which you can take a lot of. This middle curb is a lot harder to get right because you need that rotation, and the run down towards Parabolica now is it quicker than you think, but it still takes a little bit of time to get up to speed, and you can't brake too early or too late for Parabolica because you end up just hitting that inside curb and completely upsetting the balance.
So this will be one of the first lap times that we see. And the timing tower is ready in preparation. It will be the first that we see. Oh, he's about tied with Jack Boyd, actually. Jack Boyd presently at the top by half a second from Brenton Hobson, but it's probably not this first lap that matters as much as the second flying lap for reasons of tyre temperature that we talked about. And of course, the way you're always going to approach a qualifying session with 2 laps is bank a lap for the first lap and then, take the risk on the second lap. It's normally the way to go about it. So that's one of the reasons we'll see them probably build up to more speed on the second lap. It's looking Jack Boyd, Mosmoroz, Brenton Hobson for the top 3 at the moment. And curiously, the 3 manufacturers as well.
Yeah, it's like we did say, it was a all. And Jared Hughes just goes to the top in his McLaren. So I think there's a much larger proportion of Porsches, but the BMWs and McLarens are not rolling over just yet. They really want to back the car that they've driven, and Aaron Oliver, we see finish his first lap for a 1:57.5. Sorry. Jack Boyd back on screen again, coming down to Ascari again, braking nice and straight, bit of inside curb, nice and smooth on the throttle over that third curb on exit. Use all of that exit road, which iRacing thankfully has gifted to us. It makes that corner so much nicer to drive through. He is 1/1000th away from Jared Hughes on pole at the moment, so hopefully the tyres are well up to temp now, not going off that cliff just yet. Run out of Parabolica, run the car wide on exit, and keeps it narrow in fact. Minimize the line, use all of that road on the right hand side, and goes 0.2 quicker.
Yeah, found some time, but not a gigantic amount of time. 1:56 for Jack Boyd, and that's going to be the end of his qualifying. Nick Wood, one of the drivers at the moment with no time. In fifth at the minute. Fifth overall, that is. Getting a little bit of the curb there, a little bit of the curb there. One of those things that's deadly to do on cold tyres, but with the warm tyres, a little easier to get away with and snake your line through the three apexes of Ascari. It's another relatively committed braking zone. Down into third, I'd imagine. Yes, still down into third. So a couple downshifts on the way into Parabolica, and then keeping this tighter line on the exit as well. Not quite as tight as Jack Boyd managed. And he finds improvement, but again, also only about 0.2 or so. And I don't see Jared Hughes on the track.
No, he pitted at the end of his first lap. Like, he towed back to pit lane, so his qualifying is done. So at the moment, third is the highest he will start. As we see Simon Smith cross the line. Brandon McMillan coming around Parabolica now to finish his time lap. 1:59.4 last lap. Goes quite wide on exit, and 1:59.5. So no improvement for him there. Mark Foster and his Lego Porsche, I've seen that around quite a bit in the official races. Looks bright, but attractive, I guess.
I swear that these Lego Porsches sets are basically as expensive as buying an actual one.
Yeah. Do you mean the Lego or the Porsche itself? Because both of them are so expensive.
No, that's what I mean is, for the money that a, Lego Technic 911 GT3 RS is, you might as well just buy a 911 GT3 RS. We'll see. Nope, that's a pit entry, and in fact the flashing rain light means that the pit limiter was engaged, so you can tell when the pit limiter is engaged from the rear of the Caymans as well. Only very few drivers out on track towards the end of the session here. Ryan Cash is one of them. He was late out, and he might, he's not only is he only going to get one flying lap, he's not even going to get this one. I think he might have been one of those to fall foul of track limits on the exit of the second Lesmo as well. That's one of the places that can trip you up. They're pretty relaxed in some other spots, but very stringent through those right-handers.
And in a race that doesn't matter as much, but in qualifying it can absolutely make your night an uphill battle, which it will for Kasha at the moment. He, on my timing, it says 28th for him. So that's going to be a very big uphill battle over the next 30 laps of racing.
We're going to see. And for Ryan Casher, predictably, it doesn't stick. I don't think he's got time left in this session. There's no one else out there at the moment anyway. And that will be the end of qualifying, and here's how they will start for race 1 of 2. Jack Boyd on the pole from the McLaren of Mosmoroz alongside Jared Hughes. Brenton Hobson, the first BMW, then Nick Wood and Lee Harrison, either top 6, and it will be a rolling start, so they will be side by side on rows. Wayne Losh and Marty Turner, then Ashley Norman and Andrew Hobby. Sonny Kanchan and Damon Mulqueen is our top 12.
Damien Seeger alongside Glenn Boyd for row 7, with Aaron Oliver and Caleb Peterson in row 8. Mark Foster and Anthony Connors round out the top 18 of our field tonight, with Daniel Gomez, Lucas Daisy, Brandon McMillan and Bart Rodkin rounding out row 11. Simon Joel Smith and Darren Linus rounding out row 12. Neil McKenzie and Greg Holmes, the last 2 cars to qualify in row 13. Then Mitch Dean, Ryan Casher, Owen Coleman, Graham Ellis rounding out our field.
31 cars or so for Xtreem GT4, and they're going to have this sort of half a pace lap. Not the shortest, but also not a full pace lap. And of course, a reminder, this is the 10-lap race. It sets the grid for race 2 with the caveat of the inverted top 10. Always means that the battle between 10th and 11th at the end of a race like this, very hotly contested.
I'm 10 and 11 is going to be very intense, but I'm just hoping that we can get through turn 1 and 2 okay, because anyone that knows anything about Monza knows that turn 1, lap 1 is always going to be extremely clean and everyone's really nice, or everyone really wants to get as many positions as they can. So if we can get through to Cova Grande unscathed, I think that that's a win for everyone so far in race 1. But yeah, those last 2 laps with this draft is going to be absolutely intense.
You are not wrong. Some of it might come down to what our pole sitter Jack Boyd does, whether his start stretches the field out or keeps everyone really closely packed as they'll slipstream off each other on cold tyres down towards turn 1. Every car's got ABS, but if you press that brake pedal too late, ABS can't wind back time and preemptively start braking for you. So pace car about to jump in. It is now, and Jack Boyd in the white Porsche, still waiting a long time, and this is going to pack up the field. They're going now down towards turn 1. You can see Ryan Casher all the way in the background, stepping out of line. Boyd now need to look in his mirrors, think about his braking marker, but it's Mosmoroz holding middle of the road that has Jared Hughes and Brenton Hobson side by side behind. Down in towards turn 1, it's always going to get pretty congested, and Lucas Stassi's facing the wrong way. There, you see him just on the inside of turn 1, almost everyone else cleanly through. But as they sort of changed lanes to approach the braking, I think he got tagged onto the grass. Jack Boyd stretching out a lead already over everyone else, but the battle is oh so close here around 3rd and 4th and 5th. Nick Wood and Wayne Losh, I think, battling.
So far, so clean. Lucas Stacey caught the outside grass and speared across the track. Thankfully didn't hit anyone. Managed to find the one gap that was available, but he's back going again through Lesmo 1 into Lesmo 2. So far, all clean through the mid-pack into the 20s. Side by side is... So, I've got a car off. That was Mitch Dean has come unstuck in between Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. I think that was completely all on his own as well. I think just a little bit too much gas and around he went.
And also Daniel Gomez as well. And what often happens is the cold tyres at the start here are very easy to get caught out. And it's a cold track temperature as well. 23 Celsius on track, sort of 19, 20-ish in the air. Here is Lee Harrison trying to look down the inside of Brenton Hobson in a battle over 3rd, and he's going to manage it. Andrew Hobby This is a mistake that you see happen sometimes. Too wide off the exit of Ascari, onto the grass, spear across to the wall on the opposite side of the track. Now Harrison and Hobson not done yet as they go side by side down the pit straight towards turn 1. First and second breaking away, and you can see just the late phase here, the BMW with more power, and that might just do it for Hobson, who's got the inside into turn 1, parks it in front for the second apex of the chicane. A look further back for some of the other battles. Synergy Sim Racing teammates of Hobson right in the middle here. Sonny Kanchan battling with Damien Seeger, and Glenn Boyd is in that Porsche there.
Yeah, this mid-pack is almost where you want to be. You're just outside the top 10. You can capitalize on any mistakes inside the top 10, but you still crucially have that draft as well. McLaren of Damien Seeger just absolutely sending it up inside of Jen Boyd at the first part of the chicane, and now leads into Lesmo 1. Little challenge from behind, and
I think Hobson's had a slowdown across one of the curves of the chicane. He's dropped big time back from Lee Harrison. He's had to let Nick Wood through, and he's still pulling over to the side, and other drivers are just railroading past. Not good at all for Hobson in the BMW. Look at all the cars he's had to let by, from challenging to the podium position to now he's down in 9th, and Sonny Kanchan for 10th might even catch him the rate they're going. And that battle over 10th place still very fiercely fought, because that will be so important at the end of this race. Let's take a look at our race start once again though. So this is going to be what happened to Stussy. And as you said, bit of grass on the outside. Spins him back to the inside, but then he was just parked there like a decorative Halloween lawn ornament.
very expensive lawn ornament. But thankfully, he did find that one gap that was available. No one else lost any time because of that. And he was taking avoiding action, I believe, from the cars in front. So it worked out well for the case of everyone, but probably not quite how he envisioned his race start. But this battle of, who's that? Jared Hughes, Nid Rook, and Wayne Losh in 4, 5, and 6, with Marty Turner not too far behind his line astern. There's nothing between them. The two Porsches just behind of Marty Turner and Ashley Norman are pretty much pushing each other around. Curva Grande behind them as well. Not quite close enough for a move yet, but they're playing the long game. There's still 7.5, 3/4 laps to go, so just holding that draft is nothing to be blinked at. It's exactly where you want to be inside this top 10.
Jack Boyd with a 1.7 second lead, and about the same margin from second place Mos Moroz to Lee Harrison in third. And then it's all here from fourth on back. Jared Hughes is just starting to stretch away from Nick Wood, but it's tough to tell because obviously there's different strengths and weaknesses to the McLaren versus the Porsche. Which one's stronger in a straight line, which one's stronger on the brakes, which one's stronger off the corners. It's tough to tell. It has seemed like the McLaren is good in through the slow chicanes and then the acceleration of the opening sector, and the Porsche looks pretty good through Ascari as we ride on board with one of them. It looks like it'd be Ashley Norman slipstreaming his teammate Marty Turner.
Yeah, that big bronze back bumper pulling Ashley Norman up towards Parabolica. Not too much in the way of dirty air in these cars, not a lot of aero, but it does get displaced a little bit. BMW of Brenton Hobson behind on the charge after his slowdown last lap's going to utilize this mainly double draft, but including the cars in front, it's a quintuple draft, so I don't think it'll be close enough into the first chicane as we see Ashley Norman go to the inside. No, he pulls out of it, but that's left him very vulnerable to Brenton Hobson behind.
The BMW's got pretty strong end of straight speed. He's struggling to put the power down a little bit here, and I think through the faster corners as well, not the preferred car. But the end of straight speed not to be discounted for these BMWs. So if he can drive it smoothly and see a mistake from any of these other guys, then we saw that the drag race will go in favour of a Beamer. Differing lines across the curb, you've got to be careful, as Brent Hobson found out. You can get a slowdown penalty there if you cut too much of those curbs.
The other one to be careful of as well is that inside curb at Lesmo 2. It's not quite as targeted as that second chicane inside curb, but there's a massive slowdown waiting for you there, and that causes big troubles, as we saw for Brenton Hobson, like you said. And being in the draft is great, but when you're 5 spots down from where you think you should be, it's not the sort of, it's not quite what you're after. So Brenton Hobson is not much quicker than the 2 Porsches in front of him, but I think it's only a 10th or 2 difference, which is slowly working for him, but he is running out of laps very quickly.
See off the Parabolica this time if he can stay a little bit closer and maybe make a bit of a threat. No one is threatening Jack Boyd as he's now 3 seconds clear. Mosmoros has had a lap about half a second off his best, and it's really put him back towards Lee Harrison and Jared Hughes. So things are going to get spicy over 2nd, 3rd and 4th here, as you see how much closer Harrison has gotten to Moros, and Jared Hughes appears to have come along with them as well, or at least he had. He's gone nowhere off the exit of the first chicane, and that's going to put him under pressure from Nick Wood and Wayne Losh, who are dragging along the battle we were watching earlier with Brenton Hobson. So this has closed everything up for 4th place as well.
I think that might have been a slowdown for Jared Hughes at the first chicane. The way he came off of that second curb, he pretty much slammed on the brakes to clear the slowdown as quickly as we could. We're getting a VRS replay here of Glenn Boyd. I'm not sure what's happened here.
It'll be a demonstration of that slowdown penalty you can get if you cut too much of that. Must have been the first chicane. Well, no, that's the gravel on the exit, and we know the traction control for these cars not tuned for the gravel. First of all, you get less traction out there. Second of all, sometimes the traction control can bog down and try to stop you out there. So that's how he fell behind Ryan Casher and Aaron Oliver and Damon Mulqueen. Got to be so careful to correctly pronounce his name. And you saw there from Jared Hughes, that's how you do it. If you don't have your left side tyres on the pavement at that first apex, you've cut the course.
You have to slow down and give up the time gained. As our iRacing spotter would say, he is now 1.5 seconds behind Lee Harrison. So he's out of the draft, but as we speak of him, side by side with Mosmoros for 2nd place, and got it done through the braking zone, so very well done, and a little bit slower for Mosmoros through there. So Jared Hughes catches up very, very marginally, but he's not going to let this one slide too quickly, because Curva Grande is also a very good setup for a passing opportunity. Run the outside and then you're inside for the chicane, but it's very difficult to pass through that.
Again, the McLaren looked pretty good. The straight line looked pretty good across the curbs there. A bit of a wiggle on the exit for Harrison, and suddenly Moros senses an opportunity. They're going to go side by side into the first Lesmo, and Harrison realizes his best bet is to drop back, sit in behind again, see if he can get another attack on. It has brought Jared Hughes into the battle. Definitely think the speed right in the middle of the corner is the strength of the Porsche Cayman.
Yeah, manages and carries that speed so well. The McLaren absolutely launching over that first part of the chicane. It's actually unsettled him, and lucky not to make any contact. Jared Hughes now right on the tail of Lee Harrison after he's had to check up. Mosmoros' race has gone from bad to worse. He's now down in 11th spot, nearly hits his teammate on the way through. And wow, things go from really good to really not so good in an absolute blink of an eye.
That McLaren is no good at all. It went backwards into the wall pretty hard, and now it's not going in a straight line at all. It's looking down the barrel of the camera but crabbing sideways. So it's out of sorts, and around we go. It's that impact with the wall that just knocks the camber toe out of the right rear. Cash has also had a problem of some kind. There's a lot going on late in race number 1 at the moment.
Yeah, the battle for the podium is absolutely on fire at the moment. Lee Harrison and Jared Hughes are absolutely going at it. Nick Wood, Wayne Losh, Marty Turner, Ashley Norman, and Brenton Hobson are all there as well. 6-car battle for 3rd place. Jared Hughes down the inside holds it on. Nick Wood's right there as well to pounce in. Was that Ashley Norman around?
Yeah, one of the chicken up cars around was Ashley Norman. Tough place to rejoin. More off-roading. Got to be careful with that particular curb there. As we know, this is one of the packs that's been roaring deeper in the field. Aaron Oliver now finds himself in 10th. That'd give him reverse grid pole position. He's got Glenn Boyd right behind him. Damon Mulqueen in there as well in the BMW. And of course, Ashley Norman's just joined this pack. Shouldn't have any damage on his car. He's pretty quick earlier, so some real racy characters in this fight for 10th place.
Yeah, it's absolutely going off. He said the last 2 laps, it's last 4 laps, and I mean, I'm sure it's only going to get better from here, but this, well, yeah, 11th place battle back is going to be the one to watch. There's some close battles throughout, but this is by far the most intense. Damien Seeger is the man in 10th at the moment, and then Aaron Oliver leading this gigantic draft train down the front straight. Glenn Boyd, 3rd of a second behind. Damon Mulqueen right up his exhaust pipes, and Mark Foster going defensive or attacking into turn
Ashley
1.
Norman dropping back another spot there. Everyone else stays in line on the braking in towards turn 1 behind Aaron Oliver. They're side by side for Norman and Foster, and it's costing them both big time. They're off the draft pack. They're out of the fight for 10th. Further up the road, though, Jared Hughes on the podium is being challenged by Nick Wood and Wayne Losh. And this is through the second chicane. Battles are on. Aaron Oliver has to start defending. He went in deep into the chicane, and that Glenn Boyd gets super close to try and over-under in the first Lesmo. How's this going to end? The answer is, it's not going to quite end. All out of shape. And Mulqueen right in the slipstream as well with the BMW that we know is a pretty good closer once it gets into the fight. That turbocharged engine just has a really wide power band. It doesn't seem to bog down as hard as the Caymans do once they shift into 6th gear.
Yeah, it definitely helped him there, and I was going to say Ascari's not too wide, and Mulqueen knew that. He pulled out, nearly made contact with the back of Aaron Oliver through the first part of the chicane. Ascari chicane. Slow down, Bradley. Jesus, so much happening, my mouth can't keep up. Goes around the outside of Parabolica, might try and over-under as well, and he holds it out there using that power of the BMW to try and hold position. I think he's got it down. Who gets the draft off of Glenn Boyd in front of? That's going to be the one who wins this battle, and so far Mulqueen wins out. Still a lot of straight to go though, but he's got the pass done so far.
Ashley Norman's got the double toe off both of them. Aaron Oliver moves across to defend that quite aggressively. Now he's looking down the inside on the brakes and makes it get stopped. Somehow makes the corner, but he'll run out of room at the second apex. Small Queens sitting in 11th. Oliver in 12th. Ashley Norman and Mark Foster back in the fight, 13th and 14th. Glenn Boyd's running away with that very important 10th place.
3 laps to go. This is when we said it was going to get interesting. Do these guys say, hey, let's call it for 1 lap, let's just catch Glenn, and then we can go absolutely ballistics? Because these guys can fight all they like for 11th spot, but that's going to mean absolute diddly for that reverse grid. So if they work together for even half a lap, catch Glenn Boyd, then it's really on and winner takes all. But
I like
they've
that
calmed
you're an
down a little
optimist.
bit. I try sometimes, but I think they're slowly catching. It was about 0.6 of a second.
You choose to see the good
lap.
in people, and I choose to see the racer in them.
Well,
And yes,
we
I
gotta
am
keep things
insinuating
balanced.
those are two different things.
Oh, absolutely. But they come to one to go, so I don't think those formalities are going to last too much longer if they are working together. But I think the gap did drop a little bit, so we're on for one hell of a last lap.
Yep, Jack Boyd starts the final lap. He's 8 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Lee Harrison, Jared Hughes, Nick Wood battling over the podium. Wayne Losh is leading his own little train behind him and his McLaren there, as you see the 4 cars battling for that spot. Damien Seeger on his lonesome in 9th here. And then, of course, in the back of shot, the battle that has been captivating our attention over the last few laps. And Glenn Boyd, has he had a mistake somewhere because he has been caught? He is feeling the need to sit a little defensive.
Yeah, it's not too bad on entry, but you got to make sure you get that second part right, because it's fine to go defensive into the corner, but having no speed out of it won't really help. 0.3 of a second back to Mall Queen for 11th position, and then Aaron Oliver and Ashley Norman half a second behind them combined. So into the red affiliate chicane. Wait, is that the right one? I think I got that right. Into the second chicane they go. Glenn Boyd going defensive again into Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. Mulqueen not quite close enough yet, but that draft down into Ascari could be the difference between 10th and 11th for Mulqueen.
I think it's all going to come down to the exit from Ascari, because at this speed of car, they're going to struggle to slipstream off the exit of the Parabolica and beat someone to the line. It's going to be, I think, who is ahead into the Parabolica. In that battle, Jack Boyd has no battle because he is ahead of everyone through the Parabolica. The checkered flag is waiting for him, and he's going to win race 1, round 1 of Xtreem GT4 Series. Leading the podium with him there, looks like it's going to be Lee Harrison and Nick Wood. Makes it a Porsche Cayman, top 3. But McLaren's stuck with them, and BMW's still on the fight. It's going to be that tight, shallow exit. Can the big BMW wind up the speed before the finish line? Not quite enough, but a strong fight late there from Damon Mulqueen. Finishes in 11th. Glenn Boyd gets that coveted 10th place. It's going to give him the reverse grid pole for race number 2 in a minute.
Yeah, it was very close. There was 2/10 covering 10th, 11th and 12th at the end of that race. Morris on his recovery now, coming to the line in 24th position. Finishes better than not, but definitely not how he wants it, and that McLaren looks a lot worse off than it did a few laps ago. Ryan Kasher finishes just behind him, and last of the drivers finished now, and I guess we'll quickly go through the finishing grid before we start race 2.
Yep, let's look at the results from race number 1. Of course, we know Jack Boyd broke clear of the field and then didn't seem to stop pushing. Others behind him battled. Lee Harrison and Nick Wood completed that podium. From Jared Hughes, Wayne Losh, Marty Turner lost his teammate partway through the race there. They'd been working together. Sonny Kanchan just kind of quietly makes his way to 7th ahead of Brenton Hobson, Damien Seeger. Glenn Boyd, of course, going to pick up that reverse grid pole. That was your top 10. The rest were Damon Mulqueen just on the outside looking in, from Aaron Oliver, Ashley Norman, Mark Foster, Owen Coleman, Caleb Patterson, Mitch Dean, Daniel Gomez, Bard Rodkin, and Neil McKenzie. Remainder of the grid was Lucas Stussy, Simon Joel Smith, Brandon McMillan, Moz Moroz, Ryan Kasher, Darren Linus, Greg Holmes, Andrew Hobby, Graham Ellis, the last car on the lead lap. On lap down, Jamie Walker and Andrew Hobby. Did he take the start? Well, that's everything from race 1. Race 2, not far away. Going to do twice the distance. There'll be a compulsory pit stop to spice up some of the strategy here at Monza. A track where staying with the pack can be very crucial to your speed. That is going to make things interesting. We'll take a short break here on SimSpeed TV. When we come back, race number 2 of Xtreem GT4 Series.
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
Welcome back to Monza as we gear up for race number 2 of Xtreem GT4 Series, round 1 of 6. And, well, race 1, very exciting, a lot of pack racing, some real strategy afoot, but there'll be even more in race number 2, as for this 20-lap race, there will be compulsory pit stop, the tyre change in there as well. I have to think that's probably going to mean you'll want to go deeper into the race if you can, but you don't want to be the last driver left out if some others can slipstream together and stay as a pack.
Yeah, pit stops are going to be, I think, a little bit coordinated here tonight, because very similar to, say, Daytona or Pocono, you want to try and pit in a group so you can keep that draft train going. So whether we have some groups peel off at different stages, or if we see everyone right at the start or right at the end, it's going to be very, very interesting. But I think I agree with you, towards the end is probably going to be the better option.
So we saw the advantage over the rest of the field that Jack Boyd had in race 1. For race 2, he's going to be starting out of 10th, and that means he could get involved in some trouble, have to get his elbows out more than he really had to do in race number 1, where he had a good start and just drove away from everyone. Second, we'll take a look at sort of what that means for the grid in race number 2. But it gives some people a very interesting opportunity to show something that they couldn't in race number 1. Go. So Glenn Boyd is going to have the pole alongside Damien Seeger, then Brenton Hobson, Sonny Canchin, Marty Turner, Wayne Losh, Jared Hughes, Nick Wood, Lee Harrison, and Jack Boyd. That's the top 10 that have been inverted from the race 1 results. Everyone else is as they finished race number 1. That's how they start for race number 2. But it was pretty important for people like Mosmoros who got their car repaired to get back out there and still try to pick up a couple more positions, because it has had an effect on where they are going to start this race number 2. Some of our retirements, Ryan Casher, I think, also drove through pit lane and had to get some repairs. So not great qualifying for race number 1 or race number 2. Not great starting spot for him, but this is an even longer race, 20 laps for race number 2. More opportunity for the fast drivers to be patient and one by one pick off cars. So it'll be a Porsche Cayman and a Mclaren 570S sharing the front row. And while our podium was all Caymans, I think we saw that around Monza, a well-driven McLaren or BMW can keep up, especially once those Caymans shift from 5th into 6th gear. The 6th gear is just a little too tall. They start to bog down a little bit. At that kind of speed, the BMW is just getting into the power band of 5th gear and keeps hauling pretty well. Just at the end of the straights where the BMW definitely shows the advantage.
Absolutely right. And Brenton Hobson, we know, is an excellent pedaler in anything he gets into, but the cars that we've seen him in recently, like the TCR, the MX-5 and the GT4 cars, seem to be where he really shines. So him starting third is looking very dangerous for Glenn Boyd in front.
Different Porsche is our pace car, the 911 GT3 about to pull in, and we are ready to get racing at Monza. Like son, like father, how is Glenn Boyd going to start this one? Very tightly packed, and we're away now. Looks like Jared Hughes in pink might lose out a little bit. Glenn Boyd and Seeger stretch away. Marty Turner is looking down the inside to try to pick up a spot. They are 3 wide until Nick Wood starts to back out of it deeper in the field. How early are they going to have to brake to avoid the car park of turns 1 and 2? Oh, and already some problems. Aaron Oliver's been turned around and then straightened again.
Yeah, slightly less clean start than race 1. There's a bit
Cash
of
in the
contact.
background sending the styrofoam boards flying.
Yeah, thankfully that's there, but that's a massive slowdown at the best of times, especially on lap 1 where there's no real delta to work from. So he's losing a lot of time at the moment trying to clear that up towards the section chicane, and everyone's so far cleanly through the second chicane.
Except for Wayne Walsh. So we ride aboard with Jack Boyd. Started out of 10th. Now in 9th, he's picked off, this car, this damaged machine of Ashley Norman. It's one of them. Unfortunately, dropping back pretty hard. Maybe he'll get that pit stop cleared early. Guess that's kind of got to be the strategy if you find yourself damaged or really deep in the field. Through the Scari chicane, they go for the first time in race number 2. Still cold tyres all around. Track temperature has risen ever so slightly from race number 1, but still pretty cold, and that'll be hampering the tyre warm-up. And Boyd still holds the lead. Hobson, Seeger and Kanchan going along with him, and this is what you see for the battle from 5th on back. Marty Turner cleanly through the Parabolica. Nick Wood just behind him. It was Lee Harrison and Jared Hughes and Jack Boyd and everyone trying to go side by side. Up the front, Brenton Hobson using that BMW grunt to get to the lead. He's in front of Glenn Boyd. Seeger and Kanchan are side by side towards the braking zone of the first chicane. And it is Kanchan in position to try to take the inside. Stronger on the brakes with the right positioning. There's no positioning for Jack Boyd in the middle of the pack here that's going to let him get around the side-by-side battling machines of Lee Harrison. And it was Jared Hughes, I think. Ashley Norman is going to get to pit lane. A few other cars needing to do the same as well. We saw contact for Aaron Oliver. And the others were Mosmoroz, Mark Foster, and others.
Jack Boyd has just passed Jared Hughes. He's up into 8th now, with Lee Harrison just in front. Obviously, these guys were lead cars at the end of last race, so their business is not quite done yet. I'm sure Harrison would love to get one over on Jack Boyd after his absolute domination in race 1. And he's right in the middle of this pack right now, but he clearly has the pace advantage. Lights to flag win last race, completely unchallenged, and he's got double the distance to do it this time. So he has a little look into Ascari, not quite close enough. He had a very good run out of the first chicane to get the move done into turns 4 and 5, and it's a very good run out of Ascari as well, and the run down towards Parabolica now in that 4 deep Porsche queue. Just holds position for now, and it's going to let the draft do the work for him.
Another strong exit has him looking down the inside, but he's not in the slipstream just yet, and therefore has to drop back. Side by side for Turner and Wood's got a lot more speed. This gives an opportunity then to slip into that slipstream of Nick Wood or Jack Boyd. So he's going to get one, looking for 2 positions. If he can hang around the outside of the second apex, he always gets escorted out of the gravel, but he doesn't lift. And through the opening chicane, picking off 2 spots. Background David Mulqueen and Jared Hughes is completing our top 10. This is the leader though. Brenton Hobson still with Glenn Boyd in touch. Sonny Canchin holding on to 3rd, but Damien Seeger in the McLaren hasn't dropped out of the picture just yet. He's almost trying to come back at Sonny Canchin. As you look at them there.
Lee Harrison had an absolute launch into the second chicane that lap. He had I don't know if Marty Turner was slow out of the first chicane, but he absolutely sent it up the inside, got the move done pretty flawlessly, actually, but it was a very good run.
Here we're looking. Straight line speed for Marty Turner seems to be lacking almost everywhere. So Lee Harrison down the inside quite comprehensively.
Adult 4th, 3rd on screen now. Sonny Canchin leading Damien Seeger in another Porsche versus McLaren battle. Not too far up the road is Glenn Boyd, 0.7 of a second. So Sonny Canchin will be getting the draft. Damien Seeger getting double. Will he move into turn 1? No, he stays. I thought he was close enough for the move, but biding his time is not a bad idea at all.
Behind Lee Harrison, no patience at all as he gets past Nick Wood and then tries to shoot to Jack Boyd, what Jack Boyd did earlier, and instead crosses back over under and then going side by side towards Curva Grande. I think you're going to lose out around the outside here. What might be the first of our scheduled pit stops, Simon Joel Smith goes into the pit lane without too much damage. Your leader's not jumping at that opportunity just yet, trying to build more advantage over the rest of the pack. Down the inside, Lee Harrison goes again for 5th place. Has a wiggle on the exit. It's not enough speed for Jack Boyd, and it keeps Jared Hughes in the pack to pick off another position. Marty Turner struggling again. Is there any indication on that car that it'd be missing some straight line speed off any particular damage, or how?
I am not sure. I haven't seen anything really catastrophic or race-ruining happening. It might just be a setup or a lack of a setup. These are open set races as well, so some guys have some absolute missiles under them, and I think Jared Hughes is just on an absolute charge at the moment because He was not slow through the Ascari chicanes. Trying to get the run on Nick Wood. He's close. Exit out of here is going to be absolutely crucial. Jack Boyd is already back in front of this queue again, leading the charge into turn 1. Nick Wood and Jared Hughes, though, side by side over the line. So far, Nick Wood with the draft in front. Marty Turner was in the pits.
Yeah, interesting. Here stays Jack Boyd and Nick Wood and Lee Harrison. Wood digging up a little bit of the gravel. Not some lap down cars. Lee Harrison losing out. Let's take a look at that, because he was in our leading battle and in the podium fight almost. Looks out. And must have been a slowdown there. Must have been a slowdown. Too much of that first apex so easily done, particularly if you're in a pack like this. Your vision's a little more inhibited. You find yourself a little off your reference point. And you're the wrong side of the white line.
Yes, so easy to do indeed. And sorry, my timing is all messed up. Mosmar is now in 23rd position. It's just sitting cleanly in 2030s and 11 from his qualifying position, but he is up 3 from this race start.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the timing here of the cars that have pitted, and Moroz, his pit stop time, pit lane time, about 40 seconds, so probably a delta there of about 35. 35 up the road would still be slotting him into the top 10, so if he can do his best laps and consistent and clean laps by himself, he might still be able to find a top 5. In Slipstream and in the draft is faster if you're working together, and what we're seeing here is that's not what is happening, particularly sort of 6th to 10th, some of these positions here, and even 2nd, 3rd and 4th, which is Kanchan and Boyd and Seeger there. More Queen, and I think you'll find that just as those Porsches shift into 6th gear, it's where he starts to close on them, the top of what's 5th gear for the BMW. Nice gear shifts, driving a Beamer. You don't really use 2nd, and you don't use 6th or 7th. It's all about 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Well, that's news to me. I completely forgot it had a 7th gear, so probably helps as well.
Absolutely useless.
Good to know. Next time I drive the BMW, I'll keep that in mind. This is Glenn Boyd now in 3rd place now, behind Sonny Kanchan. Finally getting past Damien Seeger, is still lurking there. It's not too far off the pack. Jack Boyd behind with Caleb Peterson splitting them. He has pitted so far, down in 22nd spot. So Jack Boyd off the back of this pack, but getting that draft from the lead car, that lapped car, is going to be helping him catch up without really losing any time with battles. So
from the lead, Brenton Hobson's in the lane. That's an interesting strategy call. It's a very interesting one. You can see Jared Hughes is coming in as well from the top 10 or top 15 or so. It's only those guys. So what do they know? What do they know? Interesting, and potentially a risky call from the driver who was out front in the lead of the race. Brenton Hobson pulling that trigger early.
Oh, I don't want to cut you off, I apologise, but Owen Coleman is, you see on, oh no, that was, Graham Ellis has had an incident at turn 1, but Owen Coleman had a massive incident at Ascari and just lost the rear end. It was actually quite a spectacular drift, but tried to take the short escape road, but it didn't work, so he's currently doing a 3-point turn to get back on track.
Coming out of the pit lane, a lap down, trying to stay out of the way, but made the move too late and came across the nose of Jack Boyd.
That's not what we want, is what Jack Boyd will be wanting in a race like this, a bit of front aero damage. It was, Peterson tried his best, but maybe a little bit too late on the slowdown, and here we see the replay of Owen just losing that rear end and didn't hit the wall there, but then it was the hide behind the barrier that lost him a lot of time there.
So that was an outlap on the cold tyres, and I'm going to guess that when he changed two, he changed the two rears, because that was a car that, was very, very, very pointy.
It was a spectacular drift, just in the wrong direction.
So this is for the lead of the race, as scored 3 wide briefly. Glenn Boyd's got his nose in front. Sonny Canchin has the inside line, and they're both going to go 2 wide through the opening chicane. Damien Seeger has caught them. Jack Boyd has caught them. 4 cars within a second for the lead. And maybe this is what Hobson was gambling on. He could clear his pit stop early and wouldn't get overcut by these drivers, because they would get up to this sort of shenaniganry. It's happening again. Canchin's looking down the inside of Glenn Boyd. Jack Boyd's looking down the inside of Damien Seeger, and it's 2 wide, 2 deep through the second chicane. The second chicane in a row this lap that they go side by side like this.
Yeah, and Jack decides to follow Glenn through, using the family to help each other out. Doesn't quite work. Smart idea though. I probably would have done the same thing, and he still gets the draft off of Seeger now. He's very close, pretty much pushing down the... He is pushing down the straight. We'd love to see it. Who needs NASCAR for some bump drafting? Gets out of it a little bit though, going down towards Ascari, and I think you're right, because yeah, Hobson is missing out on this draft, but he's also missing out on the unofficial slowdowns that they're giving each other with battling. And Jack goes one way, then goes the other. He looks for the inside of Parabolica. He's there enough. Canchin gives him the space, but will probably try and hold it around the outside, which we've seen done today, so it's not a bad idea, but I don't think he quite has the run.
Jack Boyd, with that narrow line, goes for the pit entry. He's not alone, because Lee Harrison went along with him. So Glenn Boyd, Sonny Canchin, Damien Seeger, your top 3 now. Big Boyd realised he'd climbed as far as he could without making that pit stop, and things were just starting to get a little silly up front here. We'll see how they carry on with Boyd and Canchin and Seeger. Nick Wood also going to catch them. It'll become a 4-way fight there. Having made his pit stop, Brenton Hobson has done is about to complete his first proper flying lap. So what's the time going to look like on this one? Because it was 1:59 from Glenn Boyd last time, a couple of seconds off because of that side-by-side battling they had through all the chicanes and through the Lesmos. And for Brenton Hobson, a 1:57, even with the tyre disadvantage, massively ahead of Lee Harrison and Jack Boyd.
Yeah, it's 6 seconds on pit exit, near enough between Brenton Hobson and Jack Boyd. Greg Holmes does split them in 15th position once everything, well, 13th position after correction, sorry. He's yet to pit though, so this is going to be very interesting on how quickly they can get past him.
So, side by side over 3rd place in the background here. Who's going to go for pit entry and cover off what Brenton Hobson's already done and what Jack Boyd just did. If you're around the outside, for Damien Seeger, you're going to struggle to get to that pit entry even if you want it. And relatively predictably there, Nick Wood goes for it. But everyone else will stay out longer. I reckon they can go pretty deep into this race if they want to, surely.
Yeah, the pack is starting to dwindle now a little bit. They're still pushing each other, but they're not really doing anything too stupid. So I think at this stage we are almost on we'll be halfway at the end of this lap. So if these guys start playing nice, then I think lap 15,
That's Lee Harrison, rear grip giving up in the Parabolica on his outlap, yes. Again, we're seeing these drivers, sure, you struggle when you've got 4 cold tyres, you seem to struggle even more when you've only got 2 cold tyres. When you can count on the fronts but can't count on the rears, it just becomes oh so much like driving on ice through a corner like that. It tries to save it, but once it's decided it was going, it was going.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. You got out of the way very quickly and safely indeed, which is very helpful for the few cars that did come through after that accident, but battle for the lead.
Gets on past Glenn Boyd. Damien Seeger follows through as well. So from first to third for Glenn Boyd, they get so close on the brakes there as well. You're thinking about pit lane pretty soon, I'm pretty sure. They might even... Glenn Boyd's just driving like he's kind of low on fuel. Sort of letting him have it, rolling into the corners. Canchin's rolling into the corners here as well, so I wonder if that is what's going to force everyone to pit lane earlier than just the compulsory tyre change. They're all hugging the inside of the Parabolica, looking like they're looking for pit in. Canchin's going, Seeger's going, and we ride on board with Glenn Boyd going for it as well. Queen follows them in as well. It's a question of who will stay out rather than who will pit in at the moment. Jassie's going to be the next car around, and he's coming for pit entry as well. So now everyone has pitted. It's going to get there, Jay. Don't worry. So looks like Hobson will likely cycle around through into the lead of the race. One of the first drivers to pit. He's still got 6 seconds or so advantage from Jack Boyd. It's just how many of those drivers who just pit are going to fit between Hobson and Jack Boyd. So Hobson scored leader. Canchin, Seeger are going to slot in behind Jack Boyd. Here they are. It's where they're going to be compared to Nick Wood and Jared Hughes. This is going to get pretty close, especially cold tyres for those cars coming out of the pit lane, but 2 cold tyres. Which 2 are cold?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. There's no... Excuse me, sorry. You have to change 2 front tyres. You can change any 2 tyres. So you could take a front right and a rear left if you really weren't feeling great that day and wanted to suffer. But I feel like most of these guys are taking rear tyres to get that traction out of the corner. And Jared Hughes... Seeger, yeah.
Big time. I got a feeling like that might be cold front tyres because it didn't stop and it didn't turn. Is he going to have the same thing come the second Lesmos? Yeah, he nearly understeers straight off the road there. How is that in comparison to what we've seen for some others where the rear had no grip? I think the fronts you'll get over a little bit quicker than having to baby it the whole way around a lap. And we saw going in a little deep cost you some time, but nowhere near as much as spinning out and ending up behind a barrier or spinning out through the Parabolica like Lee Harrison did.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. You can counter understeer a lot easier than you can counter a spin. So I think fronts is probably the right call, except when you do that.
Seeger is around, so I struggle to think what on earth is going on there, but he's going to be feeling oh so much pain from that. Hobson only 2 seconds clear of Jack Boyd all of a sudden. And then Sonny Canchin in third, hoping to break the slipstream to Jared Hughes. And all hell breaking loose here. Damon Mulqueen and Moz Moroz side by side. Nick Wood picking up a big old slipstream. And Glenn Boyd right in touch there as well. And this lap, just now, 3.5 seconds off for Brenton Hobson. He encountered an issue that we didn't see. That could have been a slowdown potentially. His Mole Queen is not going to quite break and turn the BMW as he'd like, and he has to park it at the second apex, really square it off to get the drive, but he will hold on to 5th place.
I think Graham Ellis was a lap down Brenton Hobson, having to navigate that. Unless that was...
We're going to pick up a replay of where Brenton Hobson lost 2/3 of the lead that he'd worked so hard to build up. Might even allow Jack Boyd into his slipstream with 8 or so laps to go. So here it is, down towards turn 1, on the brakes, and nope, has to take the escape road. That's where you're going to lose some time. Very gently went around the polystyrene. I don't think you actually benefit from that. I think the you lose less time if you actually just smash them and go straight on. But it's very polite.
Yeah, Hobson is an excellent person and he'll do the right thing, and he did navigate that quite well. I think that's the best I've seen anyone ever navigate those bollards at turn 1, but that gap is down to 1.5 seconds.
The Beamer no less. Huge slide in the middle of Ascari. Not the hugest slide we've seen in the middle of Ascari. Lead gap down to 1.2 seconds. Kenshin and Hughes battling for 3rd, and then this pack we cannot separate our eyes from was Moros and Mole Queen. Nick Wood, who was pretty strong in qualifying and race number 1, might have the late surge, the late charge.
While we're on this battle pack, massive kudos to Moz Moros after that awful incident in race 1 that put him way down in 24th. Like you said, that early pit stop could land him in the top 10. He's now in 5th. Is just a fantastic recovery drive. And like, there's been a couple of incidents and some slowdowns and whatever, but gaining 19 spots in 11 laps is a very, very commendable effort. So, good job, Moz.
And Ryan Casher have had a coming together. This is how Aaron Oliver looks after it. The suspension is no bueno. The rear deck lid is in a different area of Italy. And I didn't catch what happened to Casher.
So
this is it. In the Parabolica they go. Oliver down the inside, Casher around the outside. And I think Oliver actually has a bit of a slide in the middle. It walks out and he catches Casher, and both of them eat that barrier.
Yeah, just that little bit of a wiggle. I was going to mention it in the pre-race show. A lot of guys really struggling with that rear traction. You see it again from the front of you. That's a big impact too for both of those guys. Thankfully before pit lane, not after it. But a lot of guys have been struggling with the rear grip in practice, and as we've seen after pit stops as well. And it wasn't much, but they lost a lot of time because of it.
Here's Jack Boyd, won race number 1, and he's within half a second of the lead of race number 2 with plenty to go. That lock-up, not lock-up, but just too deep on the brakes for Brenton Hobson, missing turn 1, proved oh so costly. And Lewis Hamilton do that one year? Or did Valtteri Bottas do it?
Or Vettel in 2020? Or, I don't know, pretty much anyone that's raced at Monza has probably done that.
The longer we go with that list, the better Brenton Hobson probably feels about it.
That's very true. Kimi Raikkonen, should we just keep going?
Yeah, fair enough. So, lead battle is close. Battle over 3rd is close, and there's been a very interesting pack for 5th all race long as well. But this is the lead, 0.2 of a second in it.
The speed at which Jack Boyd can maneuver that Porsche is absolutely unbelievable. It's like Brenton Hobson, like we said, he's no slouch in most cars that he drives, but Jack Boyd makes him look a little bit silly with how quickly he's closed that gap. Yeah, Hobbo had that incident at turn 1, but even after that, it's just made it look like a Sunday drive, and
Too wide through a scurry. Difficult to do, not done very often, but Jack Boyd completes the pass and he's through to the lead already. Is he going to be able to break away like he did in race 1, or will Hobson be able to follow along with him? And look, Hughes and Kanchan really not that far back either. With the slipstream and a good run, I think that BMW has what Hobson needs to stay with them and keep troubling him into some of the braking zones.
yeah, if Hobson can keep Jack Boyd honest for the rest of the race and challenge him, then I think that's a win. But exactly that, it's going to be, as he goes for the move again into turn 1, side by side, he has it inside, manages to pull it up this time, holds the position. Will Jack Boyd come back? No. Very well done by Hobbo, but I think that might be short-lived again. But if these guys keep doing this for the rest of the race, that's absolutely a-okay with me, because it's fantastic to watch.
I think that's what he's got to keep doing, is know that the Porsche is stronger through these chicanes and stronger through Ascari, but just get a good run off the Parabolica, use the slipstream, and just go down the inside of turn 1 every time, and he'll stay in touch, and then he'll be able to dictate things a little more on his terms and make Jack Boyd keep having to fight to make the move. Here's a McLaren versus Porsche. Into the second chicane they go, and Moroz will take 5th away from Nick Wood. Makes him the driver who's gained the most positions in this race, because Moroz, with that lap 1 pit stop strategy, come from 24th on the grid to grab himself a 5th place.
Andrew Hobby as well is up 19 spots as well from 28th to 9th, so both drivers having fantastic race 2s tonight. But Moz Morris is leading this pack for 5th, coming down into Ascari. No Hail Marys by anyone there, riding the curbs well so far. This last one can catch a lot of people out, but gets just enough air to make it look cool, but doesn't throw him into the fence. Jack Boyd again harassing the rear bumper of that BMW of Hobbo in front, and no doubt this will be another change for the lead into turn 1, but that BMW is so strong towards the braking zone. But is it strong enough to overcome the draft? Maybe.
Depends how Jack Boyd wants to play it with 5 to go. He's going to look down the inside, and I think, would have thought once he looked, he would have been stronger on the brakes, but apparently not. Hobson will stay ahead for 1 more lap. And it's that sort of, from 200 kilometers plus where the BMW keeps pulling pretty well. Moroz having to defend his 5th place. It's just rain right behind him. Hughes from 4th has a slowdown. It's not going to let 5th catch him, but what it might do is Sonny Kanchan breathing room up front, side by side again, launching off the curbs again, and Boyd does pick off that lead.
Replay now of the pass. We didn't quite get to see it. Very good move by Jack Boyd. Not too late showing himself, but just enough time, and jumps the curbs perfectly to take the position. Gap still sits at about half a second. I have just seen that Ryan Kasha has disconnected from the server. I'm not sure if that was, I believe it was internet issues rather than disconnecting, so...
Well, no, I
You think it was a leave rather than a disconnect?
You saw the state of his car, and that was, I think, the 2nd time onto pit lane.
That's fair. I just looked at the chat and it said packet loss, so... But, either way, is that Aaron Oliver around inside of turn 1? Not ideal, down in 22nd spot. Catch that on the replay now. That was very strange.
That's not typical braking, I don't think.
No, I think he missed his braking marker by about 75 meters for turn 1. Thankfully, he took to the grass, otherwise that was going to be one very broken car in front of him.
Up front, still Jack Boyd leading from Brenton Hobson. A bit further back though, Queen trying to take a dig at Nick Wood. Tough to do, and I don't think he's got the exit he was quite after. And he's going to have to drop back in behind Nick Wood, and now there's quite a few car lengths between themselves and Moroz and Glenn Boyd up in front. So all in all, I think they lost more than they gained with that little adventure.
Jared Hughes has caught back up to Sonny Kenshin after his slowdown with lap traffic in front, as well as be helping Sonny in front for now. Hopefully gives them a draft and moves out of the way before Ascari, otherwise this could be quite difficult. Flashes the headlights early. And there we see Darren Linus moving across. Very well done. Because last thing you want is a lap car ruining your race, and helped him out to start with, but following a lap car through the chicane probably would have lost him the position. So a lot of grass taken by Jared Hughes on exit though, and gets a very good run down towards Parabolica now.
It's a 2-minute lap here at Monza, so you've got a couple less excuses than the pre-season at Red Bull Ring. Down the inside for the Parabolica then. Hughes looking for third. It's going to drift a little wider on the exit. Cayman always seems to be complacent and compliant with a tighter line on the exit there. We saw it in qualifying from Jack Boyd. We've seen it in the race here as well. The other cars to drift out a little wider. You don't have to quite square the Cayman to get power down quite as much. They're going to continue doing battle for third place, and the inside line will prevail for Jared Hughes. So the McLaren seems to just eat the curbs through Ascari. Not able to do so much with the chicanes because everyone takes as much chicane as they can without getting a slowdown penalty. But at Ascari, it's more compliant.
Battle for fifth behind now, led by Mosmoroz. Not quite as close as they have been, as gets a lot of air over the first part of that chicane. It helps square up the exit, but it is can be very sketchy if you land wrong and accelerate too early. Obviously, traction control and ABS are a thing, but when you put that much instant load through the car, it doesn't like it. But down towards the sky now, gets a very good exit, leading this train. Gap behind is 0.4 of a second to Glenn Boyd. Started first, as we know, running sixth. There's a very good race for him. 10th and a 6th position, I'm sure he'll be happy with. Top 5 will be even sweeter though. That McLaren though, through Ascari, thing of beauty. All of these cars through Ascari are a thing of beauty, but that McLaren specifically just, I think, looks the best.
How about Nick Wood's line? Was that a thing of beauty? He had to take the grass and then the gravel and then the junior line. Here's Aaron Oliver after his spin. He's battling with Wayne Losh. Two drivers I feel could be in the top 10, but they're not. They're battling over 23rd and 24th. Higher up, Kenshin pulls out of the slipstream of Jared Hughes, who held that tight line off the Parabolica. Means he has the inside line down towards turn 1. I feel compromised his run off the corner though. It's all about on the brakes. Can you get a car length clear to make it to the apex? They nearly touch. Kenshin, I think, has third place, and there's only 2 more times that they are going to go through. One more time that they're going to have that braking zone out into turn 1. The same's true of Jack Boyd and Brenton Hobson. Look how close they are for the lead right now. It gets measured at about 0.2. Mirror battle over 3rd and 4th as well.
Oh, we need like 4 split screens or a pop-out window or something, because there's so many battles going on in these last 2 laps. We can't keep up. Brenton Hobson has kept Jack Boyd honest these last few laps. I think he might just be biding his time now. Try and get in front down into turn 1 next lap if he gets the run out of Parabolica, and just try and park every single apex for the rest of that lap. But he's got to get past
I'm Hobson.
first.
It's all about this run off Ascari and the slipstream down towards Parabolica on the final lap. I feel like that's how you'd get in front and manage to stay in front. Jack Boyd should be a very, very difficult task. He won race 1. He's leading race 2. He's clearly really quick in that Porsche Cayman. Let's see what we're going to have over third. It's Kanchan looking down the inside of the Parabolica. Start of the final lap at Monza. One more lap around in Xtreem GT4 Series. Hobson's in the tow. Hobson's closing. Is he going to get close enough before the braking zone? The answer is he's going to have a damn dive. You'd have to. But he struggled with the brakes in turn 1 before. He's in really hot. This is Boyd nimbly trying to attack him back and cut back underneath. Kanchan's going to have to do the same up front. He's got the inside. He takes an aggressive amount of the first apex curb. Then he can launch it off the exit of the second. And all hell is breaking loose over 5th when Nick Wood has gotten himself in front. But it's a drag race for the lead because now down the inside of the second chicane, Jack Boyd takes the lead back one more time. Both of them launching off the orange curbs, and Mosmoroz is facing the wrong way and dropping big time in that battle from 5th. That looks like it could be Nick Woods at the moment. Kanchan struggling to stay ahead of Jared Hughes. Everyone in the top 10 is in a battle at the end of this one. But the big points are going to who can be successful between Jack Boyd versus Brenton Hobson. Through the middle of Ascari, the Cayman looks good, but on the exit and in the straight line, the BMW can be strong. So Hobson's done everything he can to get close, to place himself to launch off this complex. No worries for the track limits whatsoever. Into the slipstream, he goes 2/10 back and closing. It's going to have to be a big dive, and it's not such a big braking zone into Parabolica, though. He's not close enough to have a look, and it's Jack Boyd's to throw away. Through the final corner he comes, a corner that he's been pretty strong at. The checkered flag will wait, and to clean sweep round number 1 of Xtreem GT4 Series, Jack Boyd is going to be your championship leader. But what a fight Brenton Hobson has given him. Side by side over third, Kanchan on the tight line, Jared Hughes with the speed. It is going to be a photo finish potentially for third and fourth. Oh so close, but Kanchan just manages to hold on. And in the battle for 5th, somehow Damon Mulqueen looks like he is going to prevail ahead of Glenn Boyd, ahead of Nick Wood, and ahead of Mos Moroz, who got spun around on the final lap. Somehow Mulqueen picked up the pieces.
Yeah, it's just a perfect example of just sitting there and biding your time for something to go wrong for something else. It was actually Mos Moroz and Andrew Hobby, the two big movers, coming together at the start of that last lap. So they, after a fantastic effort, have tumbled back down the order again, which is really unfortunate. But other drivers finishing their laps now. There's a battle for 15th and 16th on track. It's a very late dive from Greg Holmes, but not quite there. So Brandon McMillan coming out on top of that. And I think that pretty much wraps up every other battle on track.
Yeah. Aaron Oliver and Wayne Losh, I think, are going to be the last cars to the line. We will quickly recap some of the action on the final lap. This one is... come on, there was still 0.0506 of a second in this one, not even measured in thousandths. Why bother? Third and fourth.
It's not amused.
Sonny Kanchan holding on less than a car length ahead of Jared Hughes, who definitely had a good head of steam going from the wide line off the Parabolica. Kanchan had put the car in the right place at the right time there. Let's get the results then of race 2. Jack Boyd, 2.5 tenths from Brenton Hobson, in a cracking battle they had in that second half of the race. Hobson probably kicking himself still for missing the brakes into turn 1 when he had an 8-second lead. Kanchan snuck onto the podium, as we saw from Jared Hughes, and Mulqueen picking up big spots on the final lap to finish in the top 5. Glenn Boyd, Nick Wood, Lee Harrison, Marty Turner, and Moz Moroz completing the top 10. 11th was Seeger, Neil McKenzie behind, and Simon Joel Smith, Mitch Dean, Brandon McMillan, Greg Holmes, Ashley Norman, Mark Foster, Andrew Hobby, Caleb Patterson. Had Bud Rodkin in 21st. From Aaron Oliver and Wayne Losh, the last cars on the lead lap. Daniel Gomez and Darren Linus 1 lap off, and then there was either big damage or retirements for Graham Ellis, Lucas Stasi, Ryan Casher, Owen Coleman, Jamie Walker, and Anthony Connors didn't take the start. Well, I know Jack Boyd and Brenton Hobson both know where to find us, but they have not graced us with their presence. This is that top 5 fight we're talking about. So you've got Nick Wood ahead of Glenn Boyd, Moroz, and
Hobby.
Oh, that is what happened. Moroz and Hobby. Bigger damage to Hobby there. I feel like Moroz just didn't know he was here. Damon Mulqueen later on in that lap then picked up another 2 spots from Glenn Boyd and from Nick Wood to sneak into the top 5. And, like magic, here they are. Brenton Hobson, welcome. Another cracking scrap from you. What did you need to do to stop Jack Boyd clean sweeping it?
Well, probably should have joined in the Porsche. The mistake I made down at turn 1 didn't do me any favours either. I just shot straight through the chicane there in the middle of the race, not paying attention. So that lost me, 2.5 seconds or something. But the guy's so rapid. I mean, in clean air, I had nothing for him. So it wasn't until he got there and I could sort of grab onto the draft that I could even stick with him. So it made for a good race, though. It was pretty entertaining, and I didn't think I'd get another chance at him, but sent it on the second last lap, whatever it was, and it was a good bit of fun. I hope it was good to watch because it was fun to drive.
Well, it was super close for the lead. It was super close for everyone in the top 10 in that second race as well. Talk us through the strategy, because huge, wide pit window there it seemed as well. You jumped a little early for it too.
Yeah, I had a little bit of traffic coming up back to me from the lead. I decided just to pit. And I mean, when you're racing only against your class, it's sort of so worried about the outright win, so I could afford to take a risk on traffic, coming out in traffic anyway, because I had a decent gap back to the next BMW. So it wasn't a huge risk, I guess, in that sense, but it was in the fight for the outright win for that race. But yeah, so wide open strategy. I mean, gives you plenty of flexibility to do different things, and it sort of all worked its way back around in the end, which was cool.
Looked like right to the top of 5th gear was kind of one of the strengths for the BMW. Looking at the rest of the calendar, I'm not sure many of those other tracks are going to quite be as kind to you as Monza has been.
I've never looked at the calendar, but I think the car's going to be somewhat of a dud. I don't think it's the fastest of them all for sure, and I don't expect it to be. But if I can just get up there and amongst the top 10 and have a few races with people and stuff like that, I mean, really, I just wanted to be out there doing something a bit different. It was not the popular car to choose, and I raced the Porsche last week, and I've always only ever driven the Porsche in the GT4s, and they're kind of slippery, slimy things, but they're fairly quick, and I thought, we'll just mix it up. We'll do something different and see what we can do in the BMW, and if we get in position to reverse ourselves to the front on any other invert races or something like that, and maybe get the elbows out, then it'd be a bit of good fun.
Well, congratulations, and hopefully see you next week, Brenton.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks to you guys for putting on a broadcast, and for everyone involved with running the series as well, and all the sponsors behind it. It's cool.
Cool beans. Let's speak to someone else who was on the podium. Sonny Canchin, a little bit of a photo finish in race 2 there between yourself and Jared Hughes. How'd you find driving the Porsche battling against a McLaren?
Hi, mate. I'm actually pumped. I never pictured myself to be on the podium in this car, as I was actually trying to learn all the nuts and bolts and figuring it out, all the knobs and stuff, and I tried to stay consistent, and learning every lap is kind of a learning curve, and it was great. I'm really enjoying it. And the photo finish you mentioned, I will never forget this. It's kind of like I want to frame it on my wall right now. I can't wait to watch it back.
Yeah, and 2 top 10 finishes as well is a pretty, I guess, reasonable result from round 1 of 6.
Yes, Brad. I think it's surpassed my expectations, to be honest. I just wanted to enjoy this car, and this is my first kind of league, very seriously getting into practice and learning, tweaking the setups. And I had a horrible first round race where I was just trying to just battle the wheel, so to speak. But now I think I'm trying to be consistent and smooth, and that paid off. Loved it.
Well, hopefully we'll see you all season long, in that top 10, battling for the reverse grid and making everyone else try to work for their podiums.
Absolutely, I hope to as well, and I think it's upwards and onwards from here. And looking forward to more races with the guys. And I must shout out to everyone up front who battled it. Can't wait to watch it back again. But great, thanks to Jared, and we actually battled towards the end. I think I wouldn't have been able to finish on the podium if not for him. But thank you to all the organizers and the sponsors as well. It's been great, and to you guys who've been sharing the tips. I've been watching your commentary as well, and I'm taking them and hopefully be better going ahead.
Well, if it's me and Brad's tips that you're taking, it is an absolute miracle you've finished on the podium. See you in Barcelona then, Sonny.
Yes, David. Thank you to you and Brad as well. Thank you. See you in Barcelona, buddy. Cheers.
No, seriously, I'm not really good with these GT4 cars, and I've seen Brad drive, so... Whew. See, you can't tell me I'm wrong, you can just be offended. We've got one last person sticking around, and we've got to say hello, Lee Harrison. Maybe not the 2 races that you would have wanted, but overall, pretty exciting time at Monza.
Yeah, it was all good. We had a good fun time, and had a good second place there in race 1. Jack's just in a league of his own in this car, though. I don't drive it enough. I'll probably have to do some more practice. And then silly error. Pardon? Only in this car? Look, I mean, he's a freak in everything, but some other cars I've got a little bit more of a chance against him, So, yeah, and then, like I said, silly mistake on my own part in race 2. Spun on cold tyres, just trying to push too hard, but them's the brakes, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us what you're thinking about Xtreem GT4 Series so far. 30 drivers for round 1. Hopefully we can keep that. Overall, relatively clean as well, given what Monza is known for.
Yeah, I think the sportsmanship out there was awesome tonight. Obviously we've got the 3 different classes, so the McLarens aren't racing, the Porsches aren't racing, the BMWs. So maybe that played into it. If a BMW was up the inside of me, like I was racing with Brenton, I knew it wasn't technically for position. So you'd be a bit more friendly. You don't want to lose his time. You'd rather sort of let him go and have his moment and fight another day. So look, I'm glad that I could only see what was in front of me, but for you guys to comment that it was relatively clean. Considering Monza's normal fallbacks is good news for the series. Hopefully it stays that way. We will push on to a few tighter tracks and we'll see how the cars play out there. But yeah, overall, great start. 30 cars on the grid. We look forward to next week, and hopefully everyone returns, and maybe a couple of others that have seen the broadcast. I can already see on Facebook and on iRacing that the little green buttons lighten up. So I think there's a few people that are pretty keen to get on board.
Awesome to hear. Hey, Lee, have you got any favourite brands of cosmetics or smokers or any stuff like that?
Got a few, but first we've got to, it's getting hot. It's getting hot down here in Adelaide, so without Xtreem Air Conditioning, I'd be sitting in a little boiling pot. So thanks to the guys at Xtreem for putting the series on. We'll head now to my favourite cosmetics. I know where you're going there, David. You could probably use some of these as well. We'll get Palmer's Skincare. We'll send a box over to your house. Can't thank Palmer's Australia enough. Duo Trading, Wolfchester, Simworx, Race Simulators, Racelab apps, Phoenix Smokers, Simrigs, everyone that helps us get the series on board, and we have a good time with it. So we can't do it without these guys, and we appreciate everything that they do for us across a wide variety of car classes that we race for them.
Absolutely, could not like seriously, could not have said it better myself. And hopefully you catch a little bit more luck next week at Barcelona on the historic layout.
Yeah, I look forward to putting on a good show for you guys at SimSpeed like you do for us. You put on an amazing show as well. So Barcelona, historic, one of my favourite tracks. I can't wait to get there and cut some laps. It's going to be slippery. The Porsche will light up. So, yeah, look forward to it. 30 cars on the grid again. Let's have some fun.
Same time next Monday. Well, thank you for coming by, Lee, and speaking to us. And that has been just about everything from SimSpeed TV coverage of Xtreem GT4 Series at Monza next week at Barcelona Historic. No silly chicanes, well, less silly chicanes. Join us on SimSpeed TV for that one next Monday night. I've been David Haynes, joined by Brad Wingard, Jay Kennedy on the production and the cameras and the replays. Xtreem GT4 Series brought to you by Palmer's, Racelabs, Simworx Race Simulators, Wolfchester and Duo Trading. See you next week.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's going with the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God!
God, what?